Now, up to this point in the story, Ayanokoji has surrounded himself with multiple girls, but he's yet to show interest in any of them. However, that's about to change. This faculty meeting took place just before the class vote bonus exam, and was when Tsukishiro revealed it will almost certainly result in multiple expulsions. Mishima-sensei, the teacher of Class A, openly opposes these forced expulsions. However, it's made clear that Tsukishiro doesn't care what the teachers think. Today, you find Ayanokoji and Yukimura making their way to the graduation ceremony. They talk about the current class rankings and how they will be getting demoted back down to Class D. At the ceremony, you learn that Manabu successfully graduated from Class A, and he gives a grand speech before everyone is sent back to class. To everyone's surprise, Chabashira-sensei takes this opportunity to genuinely praise the class, even saying that this is the strongest Class D she's ever witnessed. After class, Ayanokoji takes a moment to ask if Horikita is planning to visit her older brother. Her gut response is a big no, however she quickly changes her mind and they agree to go see him together this evening. Jumping back in time a bit to the night of the special exam, you see Ayanokoji make an important phone call. Mr. Sakayanagi, the suspended chairman, is very surprised to receive a phone call from a student. Ayanokoji explains how Tsukishiro interfered with the special exam, and that his father is probably behind this suspension. Mr. Chairman states that he isn't able to help due to his current situation, but Ayanokoji is just looking for someone to vouch for him, because he might just have to do something serious. This conversation continues, and the chairman brings up Mishima-sensei as being a potential ally, and he even sets up a meeting between Ayanokoji, Chabashira, and Mishima-sensei. Their talk then comes to a close, with the chairman asking what Ayanokoji plans to do after high school, to which he says, "I'll return to the White Room." Presently, Ayanokoji goes to the meeting room to find Chabashira-sensei. He mentions that he's planning to get serious next year, but she's unimpressed due to his recent loss against Class A. Mishima-sensei then joins them, unexpectedly accompanied by Sakayanagi. Ayanokoji describes how Tsukishiro interfered with the special exam, though neither teacher believes his story. That is until Sakayanagi backs up his claims. Now there's no physical proof of Tsukishiro's intervention, but Chabashira is aware that Ayanokoji's father once attempted to have him forcefully kicked out of school. It does take a bit more conversation and debate, but Mishima-sensei eventually agrees to side with Ayanokoji. Our two students then leave the room, as Sakayanagi is just beaming with glee, as she looks forward to enacting her revenge against the director. After this, Ayanokoji heads outside, where he finds Horikita waiting for the right opportunity to talk to her brother. Nagamo even takes a moment to congratulate Manabu on graduating from Class A, and he even offers him a handshake. Manabu accepts, saying that he wishes he could see what Nagamo will achieve next year, even though he knows he wouldn't agree with it. Mr. President then walks over to Horikita, who asks if he has any regrets regarding her brother. He says no, which confuses Asahina, causing Nagamo to explain that he never wanted to destroy Manabu, he just wanted to be acknowledged by him. Nagamo, however, is sad to see Manabu leave, but he's also looking forward to this coming spring, where he will finally be able to evaluate Ayanokoji's strength. This group separates, and Ayanokoji is left waiting alone. Eventually, Manabu does make his way over, explaining that he will be on campus for another week, and they move on to the topic of Horikita. He wants Ayanokoji to relay his departure time to his sister, which he agrees to do, even though he thinks it's best for Manabu to tell her himself. This conversation ends, and Ayanokoji bumps into Harada, so they begin walking back to the dorms together. On the way, Harada asks for advice, because he's never liked a girl before, so he's unsure how to tell Michan he's not interested. Ayanokoji believes the best way is to be straightforward with your feelings, as avoiding the issue will only lead to more pain. Harada thanks Ayanokoji for the advice, and then asks to use his first name, since Ayanokoji is the closest friend he has. Now it's the first day of spring break, and Ayanokoji begins by calling two different people. He then heads to the cafe in the mall to hang out with Hiyori. Though as they sit down, they overhear Ike about to confess his feelings for Shinohara, but he notices Ayanokoji at the last second and chickens out. Hiyori then abruptly asks if Ayanokoji is the reason for Ryun's change. He chooses not to confirm or deny her suspicions, and they move on to discussing Class D's victory in the last exam. Hiyori is less than pleased at the methods they used to obtain that victory, and wants someone with power greater than Ryun to give him a stern talking to. Ayanokoji simply states that he would have won with a much cleaner victory, and asks her to pass along that message. Hiyori then leaves, passing a very pissed off Kei, who Ayanokoji urges to sit down. She refuses, asking what is it that he wanted to tell her, but Ayanokoji seems to have forgotten. A few days go by, and Ayanokoji wakes up to find a message on his phone from Ichinose, asking to meet up with him and Horikita. He agrees and leaves his dorm, bumping into Ibuki along the way. Ishizaki joins them a moment later, accidentally letting slip that they are going to meet up with Ryun. Ishizaki then reveals his master plan, to have Ayanokoji join their class and team up with Ryun. Ayanokoji actually praises this idea, but immediately declines because it's significantly more fun to be their enemy. He makes his way to the cafe, where after buying their drinks, Horikita immediately gets down to business. Each side takes a moment to explain how their battles went during the special exam, followed by Horikita stating that she wants to end this partnership. Ichinose wishes to stay allies a little longer, however it'll never work out because Horikita is planning to overtake Class B this coming year. Then it's after this meeting that Horikita stops Ayanokoji, telling him not to turn around. You see, during the meeting with Ichinose, she began to suspect that Ayanokoji has some kind of hidden relationship with Sakayanagi. Though due to a lack of proof, he manages to dodge the question, and Horikita challenges him to see who can score higher on the next written exam. If Horikita wins, he must begin using his full strength, but if Ayanokoji wins, she will owe him an undetermined favor. Ayanokoji accepts these terms before spotting Ryun off in the distance. Now just before this encounter, Ryun was in the restroom with Hashimoto, discussing this past year. Hashimoto then makes a phone call, prompting Kanzaki from Class B to arrive. He's beyond pissed about Ryun's underhanded victory in the last special exam, and states that he will personally prevent Ryun from pulling a stunt like that again. Though this declaration of war only makes Ryun excited as he takes his leave to talk to Ayanokoji. He immediately asks why Hiyori gave him that message, and Ayanokoji's all like, "I said what I said." Ryun then declares that he doesn't believe Sakayanagi to be strong enough to defeat Ayanokoji, even saying it's more believable that the school interfered with the match. Ayanokoji then brings up that someone is attempting to have him expelled, causing Ryun to say,
"Only I can get you expelled."
He then attacks with a 3-part combo. However, Ayanokoji easily dodges the blows, telling Ryun to grow stronger before challenging him again. On his way out of the mall, Ayanokoji picks up an umbrella since it's begun to downpour, and he steps outside to find Ichinose silently standing in the rain, but she asks him to go away. Ayanokoji lowers his own umbrella, stating that he refuses to leave without her. Together, they walk back to the dorm, but Ichinose refuses to go inside, as she'll just get more depressed if she's alone in her room. He invites her into his dorm, where she begins opening up about her feelings. Ichinose feels like she's failed as a leader, and is worried about what will happen to Class B during the upcoming year. Ayanokoji silently but gently reaches out, caressing her hair, cheek, then lips. He states that he's looking forward to the Ichinose of next year, and they promise to meet back up in 1 year's time, where she'll tell him something important. Now honestly, Ayanokoji is unsure of how well Ichinose will fare in this upcoming year. However, if she's to fall, he'll definitely be the one to cause it. The day has come for Manabu to leave campus, so Ayanokoji makes his way to the designated location, but Horikita is nowhere to be found. They discuss how Nagumo will change the school next year, before Ayanokoji asks, "Why do you think so highly of me?" Manabu is apparently just able to tell that Ayanokoji possesses an unrivaled strength, that could only be obtained through years of grueling hard work. He then gives Ayanokoji his and Tachibana's phone numbers, just in case he ever needs them. Ayanokoji then attempts to call Horikita, but Manabu doesn't let him. They discuss why Ayanokoji hides his true strength, and Manabu states that he should strive to leave a lasting mark on his friends, so that he will always be remembered by someone. Then with a firm handshake, Manabu turns away, walking toward the gate, when Horikita suddenly yells for her big brother, causing both boys to turn around in shock by what they see. She apologizes for running late, just as Manabu exclaims that she's finally changed back. You see, many years ago, Manabu lied to his sister, telling her that he preferred long hair. So by cutting it short, Horikita is demonstrating that she's finally broken away from her brother's shadow. With a long overdue hug, the siblings say their goodbyes, as they won't be able to see each other for the next 2 years. Horikita then genuinely thanks Ayanokoji for stalling Manabu, followed by him asking which hairstyle she likes better. She doesn't actually have a preference, because what's most important is that Horikita has finally accepted her true self. She then begins to walk away, asking Ayanokoji to please leave her alone, but he refuses as the tears begin streaming down her face. A few moments go by and she calms down, allowing Ayanokoji to inform her that if he wins their competition, he wants her to join the student council. He explains the reason is to keep tabs on Nagamo, and that this was originally Manabu's idea. Next, they discuss Kushida, and Horikita is shocked to learn that Ayanokoji made a deal, giving her half of all his future personal points. You see, he was originally planning to have Kushida expelled, which he still thinks is the best course of action. However, he's curious to how Horikita will deal with Kushida in the future, so he ultimately leaves the decision up to her. She does acknowledge that Kushida will eventually become a problem, but she refuses to expel a classmate based off of an assumption. Switching perspectives, we get a glimpse into the mind of another Class D student. Matsushita is from a well-off family, and her life was going perfectly until she was placed in Class D. She believes herself to be in the top 10% of students for their grade. However, due to her pitiful classmates, she decides to keep her strength hidden. Now, here recently, Matsushita has begun noticing Ayanokoji. She suspects that he has a relationship with Karuizawa and even Sakayanagi. Plus, he answered the hardest question correctly during the Flash Mental Arithmetic. All of this together is why she believes that Ayanokoji, much like herself, is hiding his true potential. Then one day, while hanging out at the mall with her friends, Sato brings up that Ayanokoji might have a crush on Karuizawa. It's just after this that Matsushita sees Ayanokoji walk by, and follows him through the mall where he talks to the new director. After this, Ayanokoji continues on his way, and Matsushita turns the corner to follow. Jumping back to the start of today, we learn that Ayanokoji is at the mall, running some simple errands. Though while doing so, he bumps into Tsukashiro, who begins using his authority to give him a hard time. Mr. Director reveals that apparently the White Room has produced many other prodigies besides Ayanokoji. That being said though, it's well known that Ayanokoji's group was the harshest experiment to date, resulting in Ayanokoji being the only child to graduate from his generation. Mr. Director then proposes an interesting game. He explains that another student from the White Room will be enrolling into the school next week, with the sole purpose of getting Ayanokoji expelled. Tsukashiro states that if Ayanokoji can identify this one student, then he will stop trying to remove Ayanokoji from this school. Now, Ayanokoji definitely doesn't trust Tsukashiro, but he does accept the challenge because he's confident that he's the strongest person to ever come out of the White Room. After this conversation ends, Ayanokoji decides to confront the girl following him, so he rounds the corner and simply waits for her. He immediately asks what she wants, but Matsushita only responds with a question. He manipulates her into revealing that she's followed him since the talk with the director. She then goes on the offensive, asking why he's so good at Flash Mental Arithmetic, forcing him to make up a simple lie. Next, Matsushita accuses him of hiding his full power, and asks Ayanokoji to help her reach Class A. She is shocked when he agrees so easily, and they move on to discussing his relationship with Karuizawa. Ayanokoji lies once again, telling her that he confessed his love to Karuizawa, which is why they now act the way they do. She accepts this as truth, apologizes for following him, and promises to keep all of this a secret. Sometime later, Ayanokoji gives Kei a call, asking her to come to his room, because he's finally remembered what he wanted to tell her. She does already have plans this evening, but still agrees to stop by, as long as he makes it quick. She arrives slightly upset, revealing that Sato is suspicious of their relationship. Ayanokoji then explains the incident with Matsushita, which pisses her off even further. I mean, how is she supposed to find a boyfriend if everyone thinks she's already talking to someone? She attempts to storm out of the room, but Ayanokoji stops her, asking if she will become his girlfriend. She's completely stunned and in denial of what she just heard, so he repeats it once again. Kei brings up the meeting with Hiyori, prompting him to explain that he just wanted to make Kei jealous. At this point, she's still at a loss for words, but eventually manages to admit that she likes him as well. This new official couple share their very first embrace, as we get a glimpse into Ayanokoji's mind. You see, his initial reaction is to perceive Kei as a tool for him to learn about love. I mean, he even compares her to a textbook that you discard after completing. However, his thoughts don't end there. Ayanokoji actually hopes that he'll grow to truly love her, and would even like to be by her side forever. The problem is that Ayanokoji knows it's impossible, because he'll eventually be forced to return to the White Room. That being said though, he's earnestly praying for the future, where he gets to love and stay with Kei Karuizawa.